Because the Dark Knight trilogy took longer than expected, I'm now a month behind on the Film Review Open Challenge. So this month it's a double bill, Six Underground and Polar, two films available on Netflix as of writing, both from 2019, and both films I haven't seen before. So let's not waste any more time and let's get this double feature underway, starting with Six Underground. A group of highly skilled operatives who only know each other by number are escaping after a hit on a mafia boss in Florence. Each have faked their own deaths and are led by one who's a billionaire. Also there are 2 a spy, 3 a hitman, 4 a parkour runner, 5 a doctor, and 6 a getaway driver. The escape doesn't go to plan though, as 2 is shot and 6 is killed. After disposing of 6's body, 1 recruits an army sniper, 7 for their next mission, to remove Turkestan dictator Rovach Alimov and put his brother Murat in power. They start by assassinating Rovach's generals and kidnapping Murat from the apartment he's being kept in. During the latter mission, 4 is kidnapped and beaten by the enemy guards. 1 is adamant that he be left behind so the rest of the team can survive, but 7 ignores this and saves 4 from certain death. 7 argues with 1 about his team mentality and gets all but 1 to reveal their names. The team regroup though and start the final stage of their plan, causing a revolution in Turkestan. This is done by blowing up statues of Rovach, hacking local TV, and having Murat give a speech. The team eventually manage to escape Turkestan on a helicopter with Rovach kidnapped. They drop him off in the middle of the revolutionists and leave him to be beaten to death. In the aftermath, 1 is seen watching over his son, 4 and 5 go climbing together, 2 and 3 start dating, and 7 throws his gun into a river. Six Underground is a movie that puts action first before anything else, and I really do mean anything else. The story is vapid, the characters are paper thin, and the film is just tedious. Michael Bay has a reputation of movies full of explosions and action throughout, as well as the meme. Six Underground doesn't disappoint if that's what you're after, with the car chase at the beginning being so ridiculously over the top in terms of action and explosions that it frankly becomes tiresome. Cars that tear apart like paper, bodies flying around like ragdolls, and more slow motion than a John Woo movie, and this is all within the first 20 minutes. There's also a flashback within a flashback within a flashback at one point. This sequence is how we're introduced to each of the members of the Ghost Squad, and I don't feel very attached to any of them really. There's something to be said for character names, and the audience getting attached to them, relating to them. The Doctor is the worst of them all. We barely know anything about her, whereas at least we get a flashback for everyone else, including the Skywalker. They try to do something with the relationship between 2 and 3, but ultimately it doesn't mean much and doesn't lead to anything. 1 is implied to have a one-night stand with a barmaid in France where he's introduced to Rovach, then faked his own death to take him down. The reveal of his son at the end comes out of nowhere and frankly isn't deserved. Ryan Reynolds is starting to just play the same character in recent times, a loner with family issues that does the right thing but by any means necessary. Six Underground, Red Notice, Green Lantern, and to a lesser extent Deadpool. A shame because he can do more. You might notice that this is a fairly short review, but there really isn't much to say about it. Is it a badly made film? No. However, it's a film I don't feel offers much. There's not much I can recommend. The soundtrack is forgettable, if not pretty bad. The story has no depth whatsoever, and the villain is over the top cartoonishly evil. But the worst part is, this film takes itself seriously. If it played itself for laughs, I possibly could recommend the film for levity, but as it is, I can't recommend this film. Times gone by, I'd say this is one to watch late night on TV, but this is on a streaming service. That isn't applicable anymore. Six Underground is not one I'm going to be going back to, so let's move on to the second film for review, Polar. Duncan is an assassin known as the Black Kaiser, approaching 50 years old. His employer Damocles insists he retires at this age, and so he plans his retirement, which includes a huge payout of just over $8 million. Unbeknownst to Duncan, the head of Damocles, Mr. Blutt, is looking to sell the company, and in order to increase its value, he's eliminating his operatives just before they turn 50 to avoid paying out their retirement fund. This leads to Mr. Blutt sending out a team of 5 eccentric assassins to track Duncan down and kill him. They go through his various properties and track him to the small snowy town of Triple Oak, Montana. Duncan is holed up in an isolated cabin with the only person near him being a single woman across the lake. One evening, 4 of the assassins surround Duncan's cabin while the 5th infiltrates and distracts Duncan by sleeping with him. Duncan sees through this though and takes them all out fairly quickly. When Duncan tracks them back to a motel, he's told that Damocles has his neighbour as hostage. Duncan then heads to Detroit to meet a former Damocles operative who gives him the information he needs, but then captures him for Mr. Blutt. Duncan is strung up in front of the boss, who tortures him for days before his birthday so he can kill him just before he has to pay him out. Duncan escapes barely alive and meets up with an old contact of his where he heals and gets loaded up with a huge arsenal of weapons. Duncan draws out Mr. Blutt's army and his right hand Vivian and kills them all. This show of strength scares the last of Mr. Blutt's guards, who abandon him as Duncan approaches Damocles' headquarters. Mr. Blutt is no match for Duncan, who beheads him and rescues his neighbour from the building. Back in Triple Oak, Duncan nurses his neighbour back to health, but he finds a load of newspaper clippings and receipts for $200,000 yearly donations from Duncan. His neighbour, Camille, is a survivor from an assassination Duncan completed years ago where he killed her entire family while she watched. Camille worked out who Duncan is and is now looking to kill him in revenge. Duncan accepts his fate, but Camille backs out at the last minute, instead asking if they could find out who wanted her family dead. The film ends with the two setting off to find out. In contrast to Six Underground, Polar was gripping throughout. The action is intense and a little bit over the top, but not ridiculous in nature. It's also much better in its presentation, in my opinion, describing itself as a neo-noir action thriller. The difference is that I care about the main character and his journey to retire, and then the switch to saving Camille. This comes at the expense of characters around him though. The 5 assassins are built up as unstoppable, but then are killed fairly easily, barely an inconvenience. Vivian is shown as Mr. Blutt's right hand, but she too doesn't have much development. Camille is just a damsel in distress until the end, and Mr. Blutt is a stereotypical villain. Matt Lucas is a weird choice as the main villain, a mainly comedic actor playing a straight-laced, brutal, sadistic villain, putting on his best Liquid Snake impression. He really is a bastard too, cutting, pinching, stabbing out one of Duncan's eyes, but worst of all, playing bagpipe music whilst he does it. Mads Mikkelsen is the focus of the story, and this might be my favourite role of his to date. He plays an absolute badass, but is also relatable, the kind of guy who takes his time over which mac and cheese to buy from the store, to chop wood for a neighbour who's struggling, but can also kill a sniper in a snowstorm whilst completely naked. And the way he approaches the Damocles building, which scares the guards away, truly shows why he was the Black Kaiser. The film doesn't take itself too seriously. Little bits of dark humour sprinkled throughout add levity to the tone, but conversely, there's a lot more gratuitous sex scenes than you'd expect. The twist ending answered a question I had about the charity donations mentioned early on, and why Duncan banks with Triple Oak. He's donating it as a penance for what he's done. It's perfectly built up to as well. Every time Duncan sleeps, he has nightmares which don't tell you the whole story or reveal the twist ending until the time is right. I'm not a big fan of the ending where the two team up. I think I'd have preferred Camille to fulfill her revenge, especially as Duncan was willing to accept it. His character arc was over, and there's conflicting information online over whether there will be another Black Kaiser movie, so what's the point in having them work together to find the person who hired him in the first place? Polar is by no means a perfect movie, but if you were to ask me to recommend a film from 2019 on Netflix about professional killers introduced with title cards which scored less than 50% on Metacritic, I'd start by asking why you're asking such a specific question, but then I'd recommend Polar. It's a better story, better presentation, and the lead is more likeable than Ryan Reynolds. Polar gets my recommendation. It doesn't leave me cold. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, please give this video a like and share it on social media. Maybe leave a comment below about what you thought of this video. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe for more content. If you'd like to support me in other ways, you can buy merchandise at bradleyj.tmail.com, where you can buy t-shirts, tote bags and more. Or you can become a Patreon at www.patreon.com/BradleyJVoices for just £1 a month. Coming up next for the Film Review Open Challenge is Mad Max Fury Road. For now though, thank you very much for watching.